Welcome, everyone, to the InitiativeOne podcast. I'm Dr. Fred Johnson. I'm the founder of InitiativeOne. We welcome you again to another outstanding podcast with a very special guest. I want to introduce to you today Mr. Michael Perry. Michael is from Merriweather, Georgia, which is about an hour south of Atlanta. Michael is a passionate young leader. He is the principal of a middle school, the Greenville Middle School in Merriweather, Georgia. We have been working closely with Michael. Michael, for how long now? Close to a year?
It's been about almost 2 years now.
Okay, 2 years. Wow, how time has flown. We started working with the school district there in the city of Merriweather. And then Michael's one of these gentlemen who he doesn't do anything halfway. And if he's going to do something, he wants to do it right. And so he went to his district superintendent and got permission to take our leadership transformation process deeper down into his own team and his own building. And I am really eager for you to share some of the big wins that you're seeing working with children that have not always been given a fair shake, and what you are doing and what your team is doing to make a dramatic difference in their lives that it's going to live in their lives years after we're gone. And you talk about important work. That's important work. So welcome, Michael. We're so glad that you're joining us today on our show.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
So you said you're a little bit nervous. You don't be nervous. I just want you to be you. And so I'm going to ask you some questions. First of all, talk to us about the Merriweather story, specifically the school that you're working with, the kids that you're dealing with. What is the situation there? What is the challenge that you accepted and that you've embraced when you took on the position of a principal, of a leader of children there in Merriweather? Talk to us.
Yeah, so we're a small district, but we're the smallest school in the district, under 200 scholars. A number of challenges. We have very few places to eat, no red light, small town. But we have some very, very good scholars, a lot of opportunity here. The sky is really the limit with them. But we faced a lot of challenges. We struggle with retaining teachers, getting teachers. We struggle with resources at times. So we've tried to think outside the box and problem solve some of those things to provide the best opportunity for our scholars that we can.
So, Michael, I'm really interested specifically in the term that you're using. There is a very specific reason why you're using the term scholars. Talk to us about why that term is so important and why you're using it with your kids.
Well, one of the challenges that we face is our socioeconomics is very low in this district. We have a lot of poverty. And so we have embraced the challenge of helping our scholars believe in themselves, things that they don't usually hear at home or outside of school. And so we've taken on that challenge. And I'm happy to say the team has taken on that challenge of helping build that self-belief into them so that we can help them see what they can be, even when they can't see it for themselves.
So you really embrace the fact that leadership is about helping those that you're entrusted with to change the narratives that others have tried to place upon them all of their lives.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, I don't think our scholars deserve to be pigeonholed because of where they were born or raised. They deserve all the same opportunities that everybody else has. And it's our obligation to expose them, to spark their ability to see things that they can't even see for themselves, to engage them in experiences that they maybe didn't have before. I've had the opportunity of taking some of our scholars on a couple trips. My wife has actually led the charge. She's taken a group twice to New York. We've taken a group to California, and this May we're going to have another group that's going to be going to New York again. For some of those kids, I actually took my camera on the phone my camera on the plane, excuse me, to actually like videotape their expressions and reactions when they got on the plane. Some of them have never been to Atlanta. Some of them have never seen an airport. Some of them have never been on a plane. And so to be able to give them these opportunities is energizing for me and for us.
So tell me about these groups. I mean, are they groups of 5, 10, 15? Talk to me about those.
So we've just put it out there for, interest based. Basically, the first group that we took was my wife started a kind of like a CTAE experience called Organic Beauty, where some girls come together and they make different products and stuff like that. They really got involved in that, and so we took that group up to New York. That was about 12. The group that went to California we had about 15 that went there. They had a blast out there. We did a number of things, saw the Golden Gate Bridge, went to Universal, just a great experience. And then this spring in May, we're going to be taking 10 back to New York again.
Well, I am going to, my wife sometimes just shoots me when I do stuff like this because I can be so spontaneous. But I'm going to make a deal with you. We own a leadership retreat center on an island out in the middle of Lake Michigan. It is unbelievable. And we have leadership teams from all over the world that come there and spend a week with us. If you can get those kids up to our island, fly into Green Bay, bring them up to our island, and I want you and your scholars to be my guest for up to a week and to stay with us to learn all about Scandinavian culture, to see the Great Lakes. There's going to be a lot of fun that I guarantee you that we'll have. And then I'll make arrangements for them to go to Lambeau Field and take a tour of Lambeau and see some really cool sights. If you're willing to do that, we'll pull out all the stops on our end to make it possible. We would love to have you and your students with us.
Wow, what an opportunity. What an opportunity. Thank you.
When we're done, we're going to talk further about it. And I can't wait to meet them. You know what I love? I love your passion. Great leaders, they're always passionate. I asked you right before our interview started, Michael, I want you to talk to us about your joy bell. What rings your joy bell? What gets you out of bed? And you broke into this wide smile, just like you're doing right now. Tell us, what is your joy bell as a leader? What gets you out of bed? What keeps you going on the rough days on those days when that little voice on your shoulder says it's time to give up? Talk to us. What is your joy bell as a leader?
Well, for me, anytime I see those eyes light up in our scholars, that smile, those experiences that we design for them, trying to give them that level 10 learning experience, and the response that we get, the appreciation that we get from it, that's what rings my joy bell. That's what gives me the energy, is thinking about the why, thinking about the opportunity that we have to impact the trajectory of a scholar. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of weight. And so for me, that's the constant drive of how can we get better? How can we improve things? How can we, even when we make mistakes, how can we reflect so that those opportunities always surface to the top for our scholars and for our teachers?
You know, that's compelling. I'm frequently talking to young leaders, and I'm talking to them about the choices that we make and the opportunities that are given to us and that we seize and that we take advantage of in our early days can actually raise the ceiling of potential and opportunity for the rest of our lives. And that's what you're doing right now. You are in the process of introducing hope and and new self-belief, adequate, accurate self-belief that these kids are readjusting the ceiling of potential that it will take years for them to achieve. But that ceiling would not have been nearly as high if people like you had not entered into their lives. You have a sacred responsibility, don't you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing. We can't limit them. If we limit them, they will never exceed that. Our expectations have to be the sky for them to help them achieve that.
So, talk to us. Your school district has had some challenges. I mean, your school has had some challenges, and you and your team. I've heard you have a passionate team. I've heard that they come from all different backgrounds and walks of life, and you know, at InitiativeOne, we call ourselves we're a bunch of misfit toys. And when you get those misfit toys together and they all have a purpose, it's amazing what misfit toys can accomplish if they have a singular purpose. Does that sound familiar to you?
Absolutely. And that's been one of the benefits of this process is everyone has something valuable to bring to the table. And so using this process to hear those voices, to solve problems, to think creatively has just further excelled that ceiling that we can reach. I'm very fortunate to have such a passionate, energetic team backing us. And that's what's been so good is almost like the team has blossomed through this process.
Mm, mm. How has it impacted your school? Talk to us about the progress that you're making.
We've made some phenomenal gains. Quite honestly, the pandemic hit us very hard. My first few years as principal, we had some improvement in our performance. The pandemic hit. You can imagine what sending kids home at middle school age would do for a period of time, and then trying to get them back into school and reacclimated.
And many of them don't have parents at home because they're working and trying to maintain the family, so they're often by themselves all day long.
Absolutely. And then you tell them to come back to school and we're going to do school and they have to readjust to that. So it's been very, very difficult to try to get things back on track. Unfortunately, we were on a federally identified list for a year. I'm happy to say that we've been able through our work to work ourselves off that list. Our scholars are performing much better. Our data is showing it. And like I said before, the sky's the limit. We talk to our staff and our scholars all the time about what we can do. We have a saying here at Greenville Middle School. We say the best is yet to come.
Wow. You know, Dr. Phil Erdl, who's been working with you, he heads our education division, and he's been talking about you to me about how you are such a fervent believer that if you're going to get improved results, you have to attack the culture first. Talk to us about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oftentimes we focus on just the outcome or the result, but it goes so much deeper than that. To me, the culture are like the roots of a tree. If we can focus on those roots of the tree and improve that, the fruit will come. And so that's what we've tried to do. We've tried to work on our staff, work on our processes, work on our procedures, having a culture of high expectation and a culture of belief in our scholars. And that's made a world of difference.
Mm. So, Michael, how has the InitiativeOne process impacted you? How are you different as a leader?
Well, the first thing I would say is this forced me to reflect on myself. Before the InitiativeOne process, I was very much a top-down leader. You do it because I said, and you kind of think at that philosophy. But I've turned the mirror around and started and really looked at myself first. And in order for us to have sideways accountability and have buy-in from everyone, I've had to start with myself. I
Mm.
know I need to show up as my best self to lead everyone to the best of my ability. And I've got to focus on them too. We can't just focus on the outcome. We've got to focus on the person.
You know, you're not going to get an outcome that's very strong from someone who's burnt out like a crisp. And what we've seen with in the field of education, and we're working with school districts all around the country, is that you have all of these incredibly dedicated people who are making sacrifices so that they can pour into the lives of these young scholars wherever they are. And they give and they give and they give, and they're so focused on giving that they often, we've seen this trend, that they give to everyone except themselves. And you can't give pure water from a well that has run dry. And often the analogy that I use is that right before that well runs dry, it's working harder than it's ever worked before. And yet it's producing the dregs at the bottom of the well, the mud, the oil that some farmer poured down 50 years ago, working harder than ever before out of obligation and duty and responsibility. And one of the things that we're seeing is that you can't have excellence unless you begin to help leaders like yourself and the teams that you lead begin to give them permission to pour into themselves, to find their joy bell again, to fill their well, to find personal balance in their lives. Because if I want a teacher, we've seen teachers that work with scholars from the bottom of the well. And I don't want my kids exposed to a burned out teacher. There's a lack of, well, talk to us. What does a burned out teacher look like?
Not good. Not good. Like you said, you don't want them in front of your scholars. And that's the thing. Teachers give so much. They have so much creativity. They have so much potential to reach and touch the lives of the students the scholars that they impact. Why would you want to burn that out? And I often refer to this process with InitiativeOne almost as like the antidote to what ails public education today. And that's what's happening. We have teacher shortages, we have challenges, we have administrators versus teachers, teachers versus administrators, and nothing really is solved. And ultimately, who impacts that? Who gets the impact of that? And that's the scholars. So we have to change the narrative. We have to change the way we think about these processes in public education.
You know, Michael, I don't know a school district anywhere that's fully staffed. We're running into school districts everywhere. I mean, there were over 330,000 teachers that left the profession after pandemic. 330,000. And one of the things that we have said to school districts is, look, you have to understand there is a new reality. And you have to accept that it may not change. And so if you're going to be working in a staff that's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 people understaffed in a district, you got to figure out how to take that team and without sapping them even more, how to get that team to become so effective that that lean team can make up the difference. They may be lean, but they're magical because of the level of trust, the elimination of drama, the enjoyment of working together, the unity of purpose above ego. I mean, you give me 10 people that are all on the same page, I'll take 10 people on the same page as opposed to working with 20 that 3 or 4 of them are just showing up just for a paycheck. What's your experience about that with your team as they've begun to work on themselves?
Well, we've lived it. After the pandemic, I lost half my staff. We had to start all the way over from assistant principal, counselor, all the way down. And then when we when we tried to find teachers, not a lot of teachers are willing to come to this area based on where we are geographically. So we had to use teachers who had never taught before. And so we really tried to focus in on those processes, and the Initiative One process has really helped us to pull everyone together, like you said, set that ego aside and focus on that one singular purpose of impacting the lives of our scholars.
What have you seen are the key differences in your team? Because I'm sure when we typically go in working with the team, it's like, okay, here we go, magic pill. Here comes another flavor of the month. Okay, I've been through this. I've been through 17 other processes. You can see the wheels spinning in their heads, and they're dutifully going through it. And I'm sure your team had to be a little bit about that too. What happened?
We stuck to the process. We focused on the process, and they bought in. I've had more teachers. I've heard more language now about delivering the mail to the right address. I've heard more accountability. After our second session here at the school, I'll never forget. The next day, we had a teacher that came in, unfortunately, out of dress code. But in the past, this teacher wouldn't have said anything. But instead, this teacher came up to us and said, "Look, I just want to tell you, this is the reason why I had to come out of dress code today. I want to be 100% accountable to the team." Just blew my mind. That same day, we're working on plans for Saturday school. We want to run a Saturday school to try to help some of our scholars. And one of the issues we had was transportation. Oh, well, how are we going to get them there? I go down the hallway, and there's the team working together on trying to overcome ways to get them here on Saturday, take it back to the district office so that we can run buses. So things that would have inhibited or stayed under the table are now coming on top of the table, and problems are being solved.
You know, when you have a team that is trusting each other to be real with each other, and they're not afraid to say, we've got an area that we've got to work on, you all. And when that team begins to make better decisions and solve problems better. By the way, the differentials of world-class teams, whether it's in education, the NFL that we've worked heavily in, whether it's manufacturing, we're going to be interviewing today after my time with you, world's leading expert in cancer research. And whatever field it's from, the two big differentials are how your team deals with problems. In other words, do you deal with problems? Do you run from conflict? Do you lean into conflict and put it on the table so you deal with it at a crumb level instead of Thanksgiving dinner? And if you start doing that, drama begins to go away. All drama is the outcome of poorly handled conflict. And so the other is, not only do you start handling your problems and eliminating drama, but because your team is now working together, they're able to solve problems better and faster, which means the outcomes begin to increase. Are you seeing that happen?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's our ultimate goal. The outcome here is improving the lives of the scholars that we impact. And so by putting those issues on the table, solving those problems, we're not wasting energy on stuff that doesn't matter. Our energy is focused on making a difference in the lives of the students, the scholars that we impact.
Michael, what would you say to people who are listening here, who may be in a season where they're experiencing tough days and they're evaluating, do I want to continue to do this? Do I want to keep bumping my head up against the wall? We've all had those seasons. Based on your experience of working in difficult seasons and seeing significant progress over time, what would you say are those one or two key things that have kept you in the game and kept you in the game deeply?
Well, the first one I would say is to continue to focus on your why. You've got to focus on the reason that you chose to be in this profession, in this district, wherever it is that you are. And the other one I would say for me personally, coming back from the pandemic, having those low scores it really hit me hard. It took me to a very, very deep place. But now I'm thankful that I went to that place because looking back on it and reflecting on it, reflecting on this process, reflecting on everything that we went through, it's made me a better leader. It's made me stronger. So we can either use these challenges and these trials to break us, or we can use it to build us up and make us better. And I'm just fortunate to be in a situation where I can look back and say, look how much I've learned. This is how far I've come. And now the sky's the limit.
You know, there are school districts and leaders and superintendents all around the country who are looking for solutions and approaches that can solve these deep issues that educators face every day. What would you say to them genuinely without being on a soapbox or some commercial? What would you say to them about the leadership process with InitiativeOne that you've just gone through, and what can they expect if they do the work?
There are a lot of things that we can purchase in public education, but this process has forced us to think differently and provided the outcomes that we've been looking for. And that's the reality of where we are right now in public education. We have to think differently. This process has not necessarily been comfortable. We've had to get comfortable being uncomfortable, but it's made us better, and it will continue to make us better in the future with those outcomes that we're looking for.
You know, we talk about, Michael, that the old paradigm of leadership used to be authority. What office do I have? What title do I have? Knowledge. Whoever had the most knowledge became the leader. And also competency. If you did your job well, it automatically made you a leader. And we know today that is no longer, those are not the pillars of leadership anymore. The pillars of leadership today are authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability. And isn't it interesting that in the past, pillars of leadership were about the head? Today, the pillars of leadership start with the heart. What would you say, how has your team grown in that area? When you walk into a team meeting and they're all in the room, what's it feel like now?
You can feel the energy. You can feel the energy from the moment you walk in. You hear conversations. You have staff members willing to open up, to be vulnerable, to say, I made a mistake, to say, oops, I didn't get my lesson plans in. Whereas before it would have been, oh, I've got to get on them for that. Now they're bringing that stuff to the surface and they know the expectation. So it's completely changed the way we operate, the way the energy flows in the school, and ultimately, once again, it impacts our scholars.
Well, Michael, I just want you to know we're so fortunate to have people like you and the members of your team pouring into our future leaders. I've heard so many awesome things about you and your team, and I hope that you and your young scholars will take the advantage of my offer that is sincere and genuine to come up and spend some time with us in the North Country. And we'll give them a whole nother set of experiences. Is there anything that you want to say that's burning on your heart before we say goodbye to our audience?
I want to say thank you. Thank you for this process. Thank you for the work that you all have poured out to us. It is making a difference. It is touching lives. It is impacting lives. I know it has really, really impacted me. Like I said before, I was in a deep place, a dark place. But again, I'm thankful for that place because now I can see the sky's the limit in our work together. So thank you, Dr. Fred.
You're welcome, my friend. And listen, we'll see each other soon. I want to say to our audience, this is what passion looks like. This is what it looks like when someone has discovered their purpose, and every day they're living on purpose. And thank you for being such a great role model for us, Michael.
Thank you, Dr. Fred. I appreciate that.
To our audience, thank you for joining us. I want to remind you, if you haven't experienced the InitiativeOne think tank, that's often the first entry point that people have getting to know us. Once a month on Friday, you can go to our website, InitiativeOne.com, and find out about our think tanks. They're complimentary, but believe me, they may be free, and it's not this old thing that you get what you pay for. We put as much effort into those think tanks as I would a speech in front of 3,000 people. We'll have 1,000 people every month, either virtually or personally, coming in and gleaning truth like what Michael and I have been sharing together. Check us out on our think tanks. They start at 7:30 on Friday mornings, Central Time. They last just about an hour. And then if you want to learn more about how we can impact your team, your organization in a deeply transformational, sustainable way, give us a call. Reach out to our website. Michael, again, I want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You are a champion, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Take care, everybody, and we hope to see you again soon.